How do you develop pricing strategy for services? How has that changed as your company has grown? That's a great question. It's just sort of a question that exists, I think, for any business, particularly a small business, or where you have a business where you're kind of making things up as you go, that the services are not commodity services. So we kind of play around with that a lot. We try to get a lot of feedback from our clients, or if we sort of bid on an RFP and we don't get it, or we do get it, we try to get as much feedback about how we're coming in relative to others. Usually a client will ask for something. So for example, an entity might say, a corporation might say, help us develop a sustainability management plan. And there may be 3 firms bidding on that, and each of the 3 firms may come at it very differently. So as much as the pricing strategy, there's this question of how do you add value in a really succinct fashion, and then how many hours is it going to take you to do that? And then, our hourly rates tend to have the sort of profit built into it. That's just sort of how consulting companies work. So if we can do a project on budget, then we sort of meet our profit margins that we want. If we can do it ahead of budget, even better. We tend to price things as fixed fee. In some cases, we find out that we are more expensive than everybody else by a lot. In some cases, we find that we're less expensive. So it's a moving target, and then the expectations differ depending on what market you're in. We do a lot of international work, and that there's a set of expectations in those markets. There's a set of expectations in New York. There's a different set of expectations in Colorado. And sometimes people really just want a narrow service. They want an energy audit, or they want a LEED certified building, and they don't want the full package that we feel like we could sort of deliver to make a project really great. And in those cases, we're trying to understand, what does a client really want? How many hours is it going to take to deliver that? And how do we write a scope succinctly for it? So as you can expect, we spend a lot of time on business development and on proposal development, whether it's responding to an RFP or just responding to a request from a client. And within that goes the same kind of, for what we're saying we're going to do, how many hours is it going to take? And if we can't do it in that set of hours, then we have the next question, which is, should we not do the project, or are we willing to take a loss because we really want it? So those are questions I think any small business would likely grapple with, and I would assume it's the same for most service type industries where you're selling a service at a fixed fee. Ideally with, I think for us it also helps to have a concrete deliverable at the end, so you can say, here's what we said we were going to deliver, and this is what it is, and therefore you have a sense of what that looks like. And then the more you do it, the better sense you have of just kind of eyeballing what a service will cost. Anyway.